Good afternoon, Team Chandler. I want you to all stand up and do the wave or say hello to everyone. There you go. Well, welcome to the City Managers Employee Forum. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Raylan Nielsen. I'm the Human Resources Director, and I'll be the moderator of the forum today. So we have 4 candidates, and we have 4 questions that each of the candidates will answer. We'll do a round robin style. So question number 1, we'll go to our first candidate. Question number 2, we'll start with candidate number 2, and so on. They will be the same questions for everyone. This forum is being recorded and will be sent out citywide tonight or tomorrow morning. And I'm requesting that if you have any input, please email that to me by no later than Tuesday, July 20th at noon. And the instructions will be in the citywide email that goes out. So be glad you're on that side. Our candidates have been through a lot already today. So if you are ready, we'll get started. As I mentioned, you'll have 5 minutes to answer your first question. The light at the front, green means go. Yellow is you have 30 seconds left, and then when the red light turns on, please wrap up your answer. So Milton, we're going to begin with you. Please take the next 5 minutes to introduce yourself to Team Chandler.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and compete in this process. My name is Milton Dehoney Jr., and I'm interested in becoming your next city manager. For the last 7+ years, I have lived in the Valley. Until this past February, I was the Chief Operating Officer or Assistant City Manager for the City of Phoenix. During the course of my career, I've worked for 3 other cities in addition to Phoenix: Louisville, Lexington, and Cincinnati. My home is Louisville, Kentucky. In the other 3 cities that I worked for, I held the top administrative or executive position. While I was working for the city of Louisville, one of the major things that I worked on my last 4 years there was the merger of city and county government. When I went to Lexington and was the chief administrative officer, I managed a joint city and county government. I'm a collaborative leader. I'm results oriented. I embrace service excellence. I believe that as city manager, I have a role to play in cultivating the professional development of the employees. I am team oriented and family oriented. And I believe that would fit well here with the city of Chandler. I'm a sports fanatic. I'll tell you that now. I'm very comfortable in the kitchen. I have a sense of humor. I am a person that is at ease during times of pressure, and that has served me well over the course of my career. I look forward to the rest of the process, and thank you for inviting me to be with you.
Thank you. Sarah, same question. Please take the next 5 minutes to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Sarah Hensley. I'm from Texas, so you may hear me say occasionally y'all. It wears on you a little bit, but maybe it grows on you. I'm currently the interim city manager in the city of Denton, Texas. It's about 150,000. Before that, I served as the deputy city manager and the assistant city manager in the city of Denton. My previous experience, though, is sort of a world tour. I've served in the city of Austin as an interim assistant city manager and a department head over Parks and Recreation. I've served in the city of San Jose as a large department head over several different departments, and in the city of Phoenix as a department head working under a city manager form of government. I didn't have the pleasure of working with Milton when I was there, but I wished I'd had that opportunity. I too am a collaborative, communicative, and creative leader. I believe that you hire the best people and you let them do their job. I'm supportive and I give guidance when needed. But I also believe in fostering and mentoring employees because it's the best way to do it is grow your own. I'll not sit in an office all day. You'll see me out in the field. I don't find it productive to be sitting there all day. I'm not an authoritarian. I work as a team and a collaborator. The words that best describe me are a smile and a warm handshake. I didn't have the pleasure to meet all of you, but I did get around the room and meet some of you. I believe that you have to have humor working in government, city, state, or federal. And it's not uncommon for me because every Tuesday, I actually give a few very politically correct jokes to staff before our department head meeting. And so when I don't give one, they're like, don't you have a joke for us today? I'm engaging and I'm a relationship builder. I believe that you have to work internally and externally in your community to build what's best for the community. I believe you work one city, one voice. I'm empathetic. I understand and I'm non-judgmental, but I'm a good listener. I believe better products and services come through innovation. For those who want to know how my management style is, it's communicative, internally and externally. It's not uncommon to see me at city events and staff meetings or staff public meetings out, whether you're doing a CIP project or other community engagement. I'm transparent, an open book. I have no secrets in our work, and I believe that when we keep an open book, we work better with our community. I'm a motivator and a facilitator. If I can't lead by example and be encouraging and inclusive, then I have no business being your city manager. I believe you have to be ethical because you have a high level of responsibility in a city. And I'm responsible. I'm detailed. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. But I'll be there to help, and I will follow through and follow up. That's why I'm interested in the city of Chandler's to be that part of and help lead you forward. And thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Tom, same question. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Tom Hutka. I hope to be your next city manager. So my entire career and a good deal of my life has been dedicated to public service. I don't want to make a long saga out of this, but in high school, I realized I had the opportunity coming from a blue collar family. My brother, sister, cousins, and I were the first generation that had the opportunity to go to college. And even in high school, I said, what do I do with that great opportunity? And for me, it was very simply to help people and to protect the environment. And then the next stage was where best to do that. And at the young age and all through my careers remained consistent, local government. Your local government is closest to the needs of the community, closest to the needs of the environment. It's where the action gets done. And believe me, I've worked with state and federal governments and separate authorities and all that to remain committed to the belief, the very strong belief that city government is where the action is. And then I had a wild idea. Why not bring technical skills into government? So I didn't study poli-sci. I didn't study law. I studied engineering, civil engineering. And I worked as a civil engineer. All my clients were city and county governments, a few DOT governments, and gained my professional engineering license, which I maintain today. And then that wasn't enough, so I went back to graduate school and I studied everything that didn't look like engineering because people were already making engineering jokes at my expense, which my wife continues until today. 30 years this fall, and she still makes fun of me for being an engineer. But honey, I'm so much more. So I went back to school, non-traditional student. I went back to school after starting my career, and I studied everything that didn't look like engineering. I studied public finance, and I studied planning, land planning. And then that wasn't enough, so I worked on Wall Street for a while, rating municipal bonds. Probably, I have to go back, maybe call a friend or two, but probably may have been part of the decision to award you the AAA bond years ago. Have worked, my planning, I had I went too far. And right before I graduated with my master's, my advisor said, you have your choice. You can be You can get your master's in public administration, which I did, or you can have a master's in planning. You have all the credits here. Of course, he was a planner. He was a professor in the planning department. And, and I said, engineer slash planner. No, thanks. I already get enough jokes. And then beyond that, I've worked in economic and downtown development for some of the most the nationally recognized communities in the country. Celebration, Florida, Disney's neo-traditional people, architects, engineers, and planners fly from around the world to see Celebration. And I was over planning, zoning, engineering, building department that not only regulated that community, but helped it become a possibility. Worked for the economic miracle community of Cleveland, took those lessons to the smaller city of Port Huron, Michigan, and broke all kinds of records in redeveloping downtown, filling up our industrial parks, and making sure we had the very best jobs for everybody in the community. So, and within that career, I've also done a lot of cross training, working for communities with different needs, and realize one size doesn't fit all. You have to work very closely with the needs of the community. And I've also worked on both sides of the table. So, as I mentioned, I've fought very hard to get good bond ratings for the governments I work for. I worked on the other side of the table. I was the guy who worked on the committee that assigned your bond rating, at least from Standard & Poor's. I worked as a consultant, and I worked for construction companies and a number of different types of consulting firms. So I've negotiated contracts for both cities and for vendors for the private side. I've stood in line to apply for a permit, and I've also been on the other side of awarding permits. I
Thank you,
see the
Tom.
red
We'll
light
have to
breaking.
wrap up. Sorry.
Okay, so I will wrap up. I'm sorry. I'd like to bring all, and then of course my leadership skills and management skills, including as city manager for a great community in Michigan. I'd like to bring all those skills and that leadership ability to Chandler to help you through the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Josh, next question, or same question. Please, 5 minutes to introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is Josh Wright. Hopefully, many of you know me. It's wonderful to see you all here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here today. I know firsthand just how busy we are today in Chandler. And it's amazing that all of you have come to be part of this process and to support us all here. I want to say thank you to everybody in this room for your support of me. All of you know that I've been your acting city manager, which has been a wonderful honor to serve for the last 5 months here since March. And so thank you for doing all that you do and for being part of this process today. My Apple Watch just told me that I have a high heart rate abnormally. I have no idea why that is, but I will tell you that it is a little different. Having done this process before as an outside candidate, it's a little different when you already work someplace. That's for sure. But I want to talk a little bit about my background. So I'm an East Valley native. I was born and raised just up the street in Tempe, and actually the first home that my parents had was in Chandler. They came here in about 1980. My mother worked for the Gila River Indian community as an Indian health officer down in Sacaton, and so that was the home I was brought home to from the hospital back in the day, even though I consider Tempe to be where I spent my childhood. So Chandler has been in many ways a part of my life since I was born. I have a deep commitment to this community, and although I've worked in a number of other cities, I have to confess, ever since the beginning of my career, I always thought Chandler was the premier city in the whole state and beyond. I candidly thought, although it sounds a little cliche now, I always thought, maybe if I played all my cards right throughout my whole career and didn't make any too big of mistakes, and that opportunity came up that someday I would get to come here and work for the amazing city of Chandler in whatever capacity. And I was truly humbled to come here and become an assistant city manager back in 2017. So I've been with you for 4 years now. It's hard to believe how fast that's gone by. And It's wonderful to get to come to work here every day. I still am not sure how I wound up here because everybody here is so smart and so dedicated, and I wonder, what am I doing here sometimes? But it is truly a testament to the power and greatness of this city. As many of you know, like all good Tempe natives, I went to the University of Arizona, bear down. Yes, see, Councilmember Lopez knows what I'm talking about. So went there with no idea what I wanted to do in life, although I knew that I always needed to have a career where it was about service. And candidly, that's what it's always been about for me. My first career opportunity in public service was actually while I was going to the University of Arizona. The university hired me as I know the terminology now that I work in government. I thought we just drove cars around. It was fun. But I was a dial-a-ride transit driver, believe it or not, for the university. And then I worked in dispatch, and then I became a supervisor, and then they hired me as the director when I was 19 years old. So I did not know anything about how to manage an organization, but I really believed in the power of what we did to serve others, to get people around safely, and to provide that public service that was needed. Took that from there after earning my master's degree, and wound up working for the town of Marana, Arizona, down near Tucson as a suburb, and started there as an intern, and left 5.5 years later as a director. Was over economic development and intergovernmental affairs. I ran parts of development services for a while. I was the building official for a short period of time. I kind of had whatever odd job was needed, but worked principally in the city manager's office. My wife and I are both from the Valley. She's a native of Fountain Hills. And so we always knew we wanted to come back to the East Valley, but that was during the recession time and there just weren't any jobs available. And so I wound up becoming the city manager out in Wickenburg, Arizona, way out in the far northwest corner of Maricopa County. And didn't know anything about the community, but it wound up being a wonderful opportunity for me and for my family as well. And so I served as city manager there for about 5.5 years, overseeing things that I hope I never see again, like electric utilities and municipal cemeteries and municipal gun ranges and municipal rodeo arenas and all kinds of everything else in between, including full-time everything else that we do here at the city of Chandler as well. So it was a wonderful experience to really understand deep at the frontline levels how amazing the job that all of you do is, and how challenging it can be at times to serve the public and continue to deliver that great customer service. So I truly am in awe of the work that we do. Again, I've been here in Chandler for the last 4 years and 5 months now as your acting city manager. And I hope to get to continue in that role. I've really enjoyed the camaraderie that we have and the opportunities that are in front of us. And I think Chandler's best days are still ahead of it. So I look forward to this opportunity to work with all of you more and more in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I'm working the timer and the microphone, and so just so Sarah, I'll ask you to start. You'll have 3 minutes, and can you please take the next 3 minutes to discuss why you are interested in leading Team Chandler and being part of the Chandler community?
Okay, thank you. I guess I would say, first of all, why not Chandler? And I think all of you could answer that question. I'm very impressed with the individuals I've met so far, but I had the opportunity to meet Matt and Micah, and their ability to run a very lean area in the area of public information marketing and certainly economic development. And I have heard nothing but positive things about the leadership in this city from the department heads and managers. And so why not? Someone wise once said to me, never run away from a job, always run to a job. And this would be that opportunity for me. It's running to Chandler to be able to continue the great work that's happening here. I'm very honored to be selected as a finalist here. When you can make it to a Final Four, whether it's basketball or anything else, it's an amazing feat. And I'm very honored. I really am. The city is an outstanding place to live, work, learn, and play. You have all of those components. You have outstanding livelihood here. You have wonderful quality of life in your parks and your facilities and your trails. You have excellent learning opportunities here with the junior colleges and connection to the University of Arizona and Arizona State. And, you know, the accreditations and the recognitions that your fire and police have are second to none. Your facility, your public safety facility, training facility is amazing and the envy of probably every public safety entity in this country. I really believe that I can assist the city moving forward in the focus areas that have been identified by council. My experience is working with communities. It's working with them, not for them. It's working with staff. It's working with the mayor and council. And I mean that sincerely. The word with is very important, not for. I also believe with the opportunities I've had in working with economic development projects and creating quality of life, economic vitality for a city, whether it's infill or redevelopment projects, but they also is to help a city work smarter, not harder. And you're already on your way with your innovation and technology. So for me, the future for the city is how we serve our communities. And I believe I have that ability to help you in how we serve the city of Chandler and how we move it forward. I have the pleasure of working with many diverse communities. When I was in Phoenix, I worked with the different Native American tribe communities. And I take pride in the fact that I can bring and work sitting down and coming together and trying to work through problems and issues. So I want to thank you again, and I want you to know how honored I am just to be here as a Final Four member.
Thank you, Sarah. Tom, same question. Please take the next 3 minutes to discuss why you're interested in leading Team Chandler and being part of the Chandler community.
Okay, I've often been accused of pointing out the obvious when no one else did. So I've never lived in Arizona. I think I'm the only one up here who has not lived in Arizona. Frequent visitor. I very much, my wife and I would like to live where we spend a lot of money to come and visit. And I make my wife very happy when she, that spouse thing. And it's not sexist. It works both ways, the elbow and the ribs. Why don't you get a job here? This is so nice. I look forward to living in Chandler. I look forward to moving my family here. I look forward to being part of the community. And most importantly, I look forward to working hard for the citizens, the businesses, and for city council. I've literally traveled the world, and I've worked for lots of different communities, large and small, well-off, struggling, cities and counties that provide city services, which part of my city pedigree in city government. And I know a great community when I see one. I know a great city government when I see one. And I want to help you to maintain what the very best of this community. And I want to help you make improvements where you see the need for improvements. Most importantly, I want to work with you to face the challenges of the future. More than ever, a year and a half ago, if we sat here and I said something like that, you might not agree with me that my opinion, things always keep changing. Things change quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. After COVID-19, we saw drastic changes, drastic challenges to our economies, drastic challenges to our lives and our families. And things keep changing. So I'd very much like to be part of the community and part of this government to help you face every and all challenges that come forward.
Thank you. Josh, 3 minutes. Would you like me to repeat the question? Okay. So, why are you interested in leading Team Chandler and being part of the Chandler community?
Absolutely. Well, I'm already part of the Chandler community, so I've got one of those two questions already answered, right? But, really the reason that I pursued this opportunity is because of everybody in this room, to be honest with you, and all the people that care about this community and all the community organizations we get to partner with. We are so fortunate to be where we are. We have an incredible city. Look at what we have collectively built. It is an amazing place to be. And as I was given the opportunity, which I was sincerely very humbled by, to become the acting city manager 5 months ago, and again, it was really sincere because you're in a position where the community is putting its trust in you to do the right thing, and to build the relationships that need to be built and to lead in the right way. I honestly didn't know if I wanted to be the permanent city manager, but what changed it for me was working here every day with everybody that does an incredible job for this organization. realizing the talent that we have, the opportunity that we have, and wanting to provide that vision forward and that stability, candidly. It's been a very difficult year for everybody. Let's just call it what it is. It's been a crazy time with a pandemic that no one could have seen coming, with civil unrest and the variety of issues that we get to tackle now. It's been a tough year just in terms of how do we become a more mobile workforce, and how do we find ways to continue to deliver outstanding service despite the stresses that may be going on in our personal lives. And Team Chandler just did a phenomenal job. Everybody out there did an incredible job, from the city council and their leadership and the way that they envisioned how we would come out of this stronger. And now we've come into this time where it seems like we're back to the good old times in terms of how much is being built here and how much activity there is and how much investment there is in Chandler just in the last few months. I think what really excited me was the opportunity to give that stability, but also to continue to create space to innovate. This is the community of innovation that has been our brand, that is our vision here, and to be able to find ways to get the best and brightest people on our team, and to be able to continue to create that space where we can do amazing new things for the community and continue to grow. This is not a place that you come and say, I want to start over, I want to tear down and rebuild as a city manager. We have a wonderful culture here. We have an incredible base of talent that we have. It's how do we just continue to do that much better? And so as I looked at the opportunities and got to work with many people that I hadn't worked with as closely before in my previous role, worked with each of the council members and understood their vision, worked with our community partners to understand their vision for the community, I felt that I had a calling. It was calling to me that this is your time, Josh, to step up. You are the right person, and it's time to lead this organization to even greater heights. And so that is why I want to continue to be here as your city manager, and why I continue to raise my family in this community and hope to do so for a long time to come.
Thank you, Josh. So Milton, again, 3 minutes. Please discuss why you're interested in leading Team Chandler and being part of the Chandler community.
Thank you. There is a true sense of community in Chandler. At the end of the day, you can see the difference you've made in the lives of the residents when you work in Chandler. Recently, when the police department suffered a loss, it wasn't just the police department that rallied. It wasn't just city government that rallied. It wasn't just the school systems that rallied, but the entire community rallied to support the officer's family. That's telling. Look around the country, you don't see that every place. At the end of the day, you can tell the difference you made if you serve in Chandler. Your values embrace diversity and inclusion. Those resonate with me. Chandler is about growth, which speaks volumes about possibilities for the local government and the community as a whole. I believe I have a range of experience and skill set that can fit here. In a sense, I already have a kinship with you. For the past several years, I've been a board member at Dignity Health. We have several facilities that we operate within your city. You're offering a city manager position, and that is the seat that I would like to occupy once again. I would like to stay in the valley if at all possible. You support innovation. You run a lean government by design, which means innovation is increasingly important. If we can be innovative in local government, it speaks well to the broader community, because as we try to sell and attract business growth to Chandler, when we say we are a government that embraces innovation, we are a government that embraces efficiency, we are a government that embraces technology, those are strong selling points. At the end of the day, you can see the difference you make if you serve in Chandler. That is why I want to be a part of what you are doing. And I hope that you choose me. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've asked each of the candidates to prepare a presentation outlining their 30, 60, 90, and 180-day plan if they were selected as our city manager. Now I'm going to run the presentation and the timer and the microphone, so we'll see how that works. I'm going to do it all. Um, and Tom is going to start, so I will start the timer at 10 minutes. And they have a clicker they're going to pass, so we'll see how all this goes, right? All right. Tom, I'll let you start.
Can you all see a screen up there, I guess? Okay, that's me. I'm Tom Hutka. And here's the inaugural click. Let's see if it works. No, that didn't work. That didn't work.
Third time the charm.
Yeah. I tried that one first. Yep, that time it worked. Okay, real simply, I'm not going to go through this in detail. These are the city strategic policy goals. That's the starting point for your new city manager, followed up by specific focus areas. If you've been following your city government, you should recognize all those. So we were asked to go through what we would do in our first 30 days, 60 days, 90, did I get it right? 180? And so I'll stick to that format. In the first 30 days, I'd like to really make sure we have a strong foundation for the new city manager with city council, and make sure that we have a good understanding and good discussion about the foundation of a council manager form of government. And quite simply, it's very simply put, is council, the mayor and council set policy and are responsible for specific approvals, approving contracts, approving different major items that come before council. City manager manages staff on a day-to-day basis, particularly to accomplish those policy goals set by council. And this is the part that isn't always done very well, informs mayor and city council to make sure they know what's going on. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Staff, of course, works on day-to-day programs, projects, and tasks. Now, I'm going to interject here. I'll go off slide a little bit. I apologize. I'm being very trite, maybe even pedantic, but it's amazing how many city governments don't quite stick to the basics, don't have a solid foundation in basic form of government. And so it's very important we do this. There's an expression in our business, well-informed decisions. You want your elected official to make well-informed decisions. Well, that's is the responsibility of city manager and staff to make sure they all get, your mayor and council members all get information that's accurate, timely, and equal to all of them so that they all have the same information. Before public meetings, make sure staff led by the city manager will make sure that your elected officials have background information, have all the options on how to address a situation, the pros and the cons of each option. We get mayor and council members' input because they're all professionals and certainly know the city very well. Another step that's often forgotten, we get their input before the public meetings. We make recommendations and we answer all questions. So, and on a regular basis, we do regular status reports about all the programs and the projects we're working on, and briefings on daily events. I'll speak for elected officials, but they could be having a perfectly nice day. Get up, the sun's shining as it often is in this beautiful community, and then just like that, their day turns around when a citizen or a newspaper reporter calls and starts asking questions about a water main break in a neighborhood that they know nothing about. That'll really ruin a day. So my job is to make sure that council is well informed and we all work together as a team. Now, so there will still be public debates at your city council meetings, but we'll make sure that they're very intelligent discussions and that everybody is well informed on the issue so they can jump right into the meat of the issue. And again, I apologize for being a little bit trite, but this is how many governments don't do a good job for their citizens. In my first 30 days, I'll assess the city's financial situation and a financial forecast, especially in these times when we're all affected by the pandemic and even the aftermath of the pandemic. I'll meet and build relationships with all stakeholders, starting with the people in this room who are so engaged in their city government they came down to hear us talk today. In my first 60 days, work on all details of public communication to make sure that we're a transparent organization. And nowadays, there are so many ways to get the message out. There's social media and there's instant messaging. Certainly through your news media, which is reinventing itself every few years, more on the internet than in hard copy newspapers. Town hall style meetings, ribbon cuttings, celebrations, presentations during your televised council meeting, all manner of ways. And just something simple. And again, this sounds simplistic, but not always done. I commit to returning every phone call I get from everyone. And I'll say that right now. If any of you call me, you will get a call back from me, not from an assistant, not from an auto robot, but from me to talk about whatever your question or concern is. Work very closely on advancing something I think you already have, a workforce and a workplace that promotes both pride and respect, where people enjoy coming into work every morning. They're proud to be part of the team. They're acknowledged for their successes. They're treated with dignity and respect. And it shows when they turn around and work with members of the public. That turns around and becomes the cornerstone of our great customer service. See, everybody, if you hold it down here, it doesn't work. If you hold it up here, so that's a freebie. I'll tour city facilities and meet with staff. As Sarah said, I'm cut from the same cloth. I hate sitting behind a desk. I go out. I've been known to work alongside the road crews, and not for photo opportunities. Leave your camera at home. I go out and meet with all staff members at their place of work and get to know not only them as people, but what they do for a living. And I ask them for suggestions how we can do a better job. And have regular productive staff meetings. First 90 days, work with council to review the city's strategic plan. We have, in the last few months, new council members, new city manager. We need to make sure that and we're coming out of the pandemic. We need to make sure that the city's strategic plan is a living, breathing document that is constantly revisited and reassessed. And I'd like to work with that within my first 90 days. And here's something I think might be missing, and it usually is to put together action items. It's great to have a strategic plan. Often strategic plans are discussed and they're the front page news and then they go right up to the shelf. What you need is action items to make sure your strategic plan is actually accomplished, that you see the successes because you know exactly how you're going about business. That's the construction engineer in me. Sorry, it does come out. In the first 180 days, lock in cost, schedule, and quality controls for all of the action items, all of our projects and programs. The roadmap to know where we're going and how we're getting there and what that looks like. And then to build a little bit about my management style, to build success, as I often have in the past, based on participatory teamwork, making sure all of our different experts who already work for the city are at the table and can discuss and share from their perspective. Project management approach, to make sure everything we're working on has an assigned person who is responsible to make sure things get done, which is the next one, accountability. And then management by exception, you may not know, it's not a commonly used phrase. But what it means is that when we, it's like, gee, department director, good news, bad news. The bad news is you're responsible for this whole new program. The good news is I will be there. We'll have the team there to make sure you have all the resources you need to succeed. And the other part of the deal is I'll work with you closely. You have to tell me what's going on, what the exceptions are, what you see as potential roadblocks, where there are problem areas, where you don't have the resources, so we can all work together. And I'm running out of time. Work closely with state and federal officials on grants. If you're reading the newspaper, you could be in line for a lot of money coming out of Washington. Overly restrictive legislation from state and federal level, and legislative initiatives. Work with my experience with Standard & Poor's and making sure you maintain your AAA bond rating. Do not take as givens that this or any community will smoothly recover from COVID-19.
Thanks, Tom. I'll have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay. Do not take for granted that you will get your share or more than your fair share of stimulus grants, and that your economy will fully emerge where it was or even stronger than it was. Thank you. Nope, you need that.
10 minutes goes fast, doesn't it? All right, Josh, I will load your presentation. And again, if you'll pass the clicker, please. And let me know when you're ready and I'll start the timer. All right, 10 minutes, thank you.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I have to confess, when I was putting this together, I had CAPA in the back of my mind saying, follow the brand standards, Josh. Follow the brand standards. Make sure you're not moving anything where it shouldn't be. So I hope I did it right, CAPA. Thank you. So as you might imagine, having already served here as your acting city manager for the last several months, my presentation is going to look a little bit different than the other candidates today. Because I've already had the benefit of that time, not only in the 4 years I've worked here, but also, again, in the last 5 months as acting city manager, to build some of those relationships and acclimate and understand some of the issues. And so, as one of my directors put recently to me, he said, where other candidates are saying, here's how I'm going to hit the ground running, you're already running, Josh. So here's how you're going to continue to run in the right direction. So with that, at the 30-day mark, I think there's a couple of key steps that have to be done right away. And one of them is it'll be right at about that 6-month mark as city manager for me. And it's important to reconnect with our city council members individually and as a group to make sure that we're meeting expectations and that communications are solid. And if they need to be adjusted, each council member is individual and different and learns and hears in different ways and shares information differently. We need to make sure that we are on the same page, the 7 of them, with the city manager. And so I asked those questions of each of the council members when I first became acting city manager, and would want to do that again to make sure that that communication is flowing up and down the way that it should. I want to continue to meet with our community partners. I've had the great opportunity as acting city manager to reach out to some of the partners that we work with very closely, like the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Chandler Community Partnership, Chandler Unified School District, and also some that we meet with a lot less frequently, like Kyrene School District and the Mesa School District that serves the northern part of our community. I have other meetings set up later this month with some of our key business partners, with our community college district, and many others. And I think it's important that those continue to happen so that we are working together toward building a great community, not just a great city as an organization alone. We have an opportunity to take the council's strategic framework vision that really is a policy document and a high-level vision for where we're going in the community and turn that into an actionable plan. And so that would take a director's or an executive leadership team retreat. And we've actually already got some tentative dates looking at that for next month to come in and actually turn those not only to just action steps, but also measurable steps. How do we report on our success? How do we show the organization and the community that we are meeting those objectives that are established by the council? What does it mean to be successful in those policy documents? One of the things I've picked up a lot and heard a lot in this organization in my time working here, as certainly as acting city manager, is Communications is essential. You're going to see that theme through a lot of my slides today. And that's communications internal as well as external. So while we all know that external communication is changing so rapidly day to day, the need to have good information is so critical for our council and our community, but also for everybody who works here. We have some great opportunities coming up with our first bond election since 2007. We've just passed a budget that includes our American Rescue Plan funding, and the council, I think, wisely set a framework for that early on. There's going to be some very exciting projects that are going to come from that. And I think it's important that we communicate effectively with everyone within the organization. You're our best ambassadors out into the community. You are the ones that can carry that message of all the great things that Team Chandler is doing. And I think it is important that we have that communication up and down solidified throughout the organization. So an internal communication survey is something we've been working on to help identify how best to do that. I also want to continue to be visible and approachable throughout the organization and the community. I do a lot of management by walking around. I like to connect with people face to face. I like to see the work you're doing and ask you questions. And it's because I'm genuinely curious and excited about the work that we're doing. And that would certainly continue long into the future, not just in the first 30, 60, 90, or 180 days in office. At the 60-day mark, I want to take that leadership team retreat information, that action plan, and those metrics, and revisit those with council and make sure that those make sense. Are these the actual action steps that you envision as well in determining what success looks like? And if we start to execute these things, is that what you want to see happen in the community? So we can confirm those priorities in the first 60 days. Again, it's been a very challenging year, I think, for everybody. I think we're ready to have some fun again in the organization. I know I am. And so I think it's important that we start to plan some of those employee engagement events that we've been known for to build that team culture here again. We used to have our annual picnic and then our Halloween event. Maybe this year we do some kind of mashup, and we're already talking about how to do that. But let's continue to build that great team spirit we have here in Team Chandler. And get out and do some fun things, again, internally as well as with the community. And so beginning to put those together for the fall, I think, is critical. And then implementing some of the information that we find out from that internal communication survey. How do people want to receive information? Is the team talks that we've been doing and quick look, are those things working, or is it time to mix that up a little bit? And I'm somebody who's always interested in how we connect better with people inside and outside the organization, and that has to be a continuous evolution. At 90 days, I think there's some realignment that has to occur within the organization. You get that strategic framework, and then you have that action plan, those measurables. Let's make sure that we have clear people that are responsible for delivering on those initiatives. It's great to be able to say everybody's responsible for executing the strategic framework. We're all equally responsible. But I think we all know it's hard to make sure anybody actually is responsible for getting that done when you say it's on everybody's responsibility. So how do we align to put some of these key metrics and these key actions in the specific wheelhouse of one of our departments or one of our directors or one of our team members? And so there's some realigning of organizational responsibilities, I think, that's necessary to make sure we continue to deliver great service. We have a lot of internal efficiency things that I want to tackle. We've already tackled a few of them just in my first few months as acting city manager. And I think you all know what they are. So we've gotten a number of things done, like moving to O365 from Lotus. We've moved off of a lot of manual signatures and paperwork into things like DocuSign and e-agenda in the last few months. If we're going to have a lean organization that's going to deliver day in and day out, we have to use technology and efficiency tools as a force multiplier. And I think that is absolutely critical that we take some of those low-hanging fruit and do them. There's a number of other, just you all know, paperwork that we push back and forth because we tend to be a little more of a manual organization. And I think we have a great opportunity to move that into the next generation. Finally, one of the things I'd like to do, because we'll already be in budget season, hard to believe it, by the time we get into 90 days from now, is realign the way that we do our budget kickoff. We typically have had where staff members have submitted decision packages for the following year's budget, and then we do the budget kickoff with the city council, when really your strategic framework, your staff action plan, and then the budget should all flow in alignment from one to the next. And so moving that budget kickoff up before we do decision packages so we can actually get feedback from the council on what do you want to get done this year? And let's look at that and make sure we're delivering that in the budget for the next couple of years. And then finally, at 180 days, something we used to do back when I oversaw strategic planning in Marana was what we called a health check. It was kind of every 6 months or on the off years when we didn't do a retreat. It was let's check back in and see how we're doing. What are our measurables look like? How are we tracking on these key performance indicators? Are we getting things done that we said we wanted to get done? How are we doing as an organization? I think it's critical for the organization to do that with the city council, but also for me personally as your new city manager. How am I doing? And that's an internal exercise we can go through with the staff and with the city council. I also think we're going to have a number of big issues. We already do things like homelessness, things like mental health, issues that we're dealing with them whether we want to or not. Every city in America is dealing with those things. Those are not things that fit neatly into one department where I can just say, hey, police department, go take care of that. That's not fair to them, and that's not what their primary responsibility is. We have to build these multidisciplinary teams that have somebody in charge of them, that are given that authority to lead, to make sure we can tackle these problems comprehensively and actually be innovative in the solutions that we come up with. And so I want to set those up in the first 6 months. And then finally, once again, I hope to see in 6 months' time a renewed focus on employee engagement. That starts with great communication to all of our staff and our community members, all of our partners, that we feel like this is an outstanding place to work. It always has been. It should always be in the future. That this is a place that takes great care of us and that we have a pride in coming to work every day. And it's because I think we're all service-minded people. We all got into this business hopefully because we wanted to help others, and that's why I got into local government. Let's find opportunities to continue to show how we can help others and build that great sense of community here. It should be fun to be an employee of the city of Chandler because it's always fun to serve others. And so that's the kind of culture I would hope to be able to set up here in the first 6 months. So with that, I think there's only one thing appropriate left to say, and that's thank you and go Suns.
Thank you, Josh. As you are passing the clicker to Milton, I will load his presentation. Milton, let me know when you're ready and I'll start your 10 minutes.
Go Sun should have been a little bigger, Josh. I'll just say that. I'm ready. It's been a long day already. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share my onboarding strategy with you. The day after the City Council ratifies me into the position, I would begin what I refer to as pre-start activities. I would ask the current city manager to facilitate getting some information for me from the executive team. There's a one-page exercise I would ask them to go through that would enable me to learn some things about who they are as professionals, but also some of the things they're dealing with within their departments. I would also collaborate with the heads of HR and communications on a first day message. I would like that message ready to go out to the full workforce the very first day I step into the building. Within the first 30 days, I would begin relationship building. That is establishing a rapport with council, the executive members, labor leaders, and key stakeholders. The approach here is touch and connect. Early on, I've got to get around and start to touch a lot of people early. I won't be able to have in-depth conversations with everyone the first time out. Touch first and then start to connect later. Have subsequent meetings and engagements with them. Critical briefings. I would have one-on-one critical briefings with the police and fire chief to get a sense of our public safety picture in Chandler, the head of HR to find out any corporate HR related issues that we're dealing with. I need to get a fiscal briefing to ensure I understand how the budget is flowing, what issues we may have. Certainly the city attorney, even though the attorney doesn't report to the manager, it's important that the manager understands any pending litigation the city is involved in, anything that we think will become a legal issue, understanding what that looks like. The economic development, which is so critical to the city's growth, understanding what deals may be in the pipeline, what's imminent, what are we chasing. And then I need to have a critical briefing with the head of information technology. What is sweeping the world today are cybersecurity attacks. If we were to have an attack here, are we ready for it? Do we have things in place? Usually when there is a transition of city manager, sometimes there are things that are decisions that are deferred until the new manager gets in place. So within the first 30 days, I need to find out, are there time-sensitive decisions that need to be made? I need to get myself in position to be able to act upon whatever those are. Also, within the first 30 days, there is an establishment of protocols. Me understanding from mayor and council, how do you like to be communicated with? What does communication look like for you? What kind of frequency do you want? Is it a fluid environment? I also need to establish protocols with key members of the staff. If certain things happen within the city of Chandler, I want to be notified immediately, and this is what notification looks like. And then I need to start listening. As an outside hire, I've got a lot to learn, so I need to listen to learn how things work here. Within the first 60 days, I would complete my operational assessment. That is simply understanding how the work gets done. Is it more manual? Is it technologically based? How do we provide services to the residents of Chandler that are investing their money with us? I also would complete a systems review. As an example, how easy does procurement happen in the city of Chandler? How hard is it for us to do an RFP? From an HR perspective, from the minute that we have a job opening, how many days does it take until we get it filled? Is it 90 days? Is it 180 days? Just to understand how the systems work. And then I also would want to do a review with the communications department. How do we message the public? How does the public message us? What are the message points that we are trying to put out? What do they look like? I would also need to, within the first 60 days, do an analysis of the bus. Based upon the direction that the mayor and council provides for me, as a new city manager, I need to analyze, do we have the right people in the right seats on the bus in order to execute the direction that the policymakers have rendered? I would also want to work again with HR and communications to develop several access the manager strategies. I have certain tools that I'd like to put in place that are predictable so the employees know that you're going to hear from the city manager in a variety of ways on a variety of topics, and also design the best ways for the employees to interact with me. Continue absorbing the council's vision. I'm talking fast because I don't want that red light to go off. Continue absorbing the council's vision, and also I need to absorb the city of Chandler culture. I'm joining you. You're not joining me. I've got to understand what your culture is, what you enforce, how it works, and how I can be part of it. Broadening outreach to neighborhood and community stakeholders also within the first 60 days. And just like within the first 30, continue listening. Within the first 90 days, begin developing a bond program, and this specifically refers to communications and monitoring. If your public says yes to the bonds, and you haven't done it in more than a decade, it's a $400+ million investment. It's 50+ projects. They can't be treated as 50 individual projects. There needs to be a coordinated communication strategy so the public and you know, how are we doing? What's coming? How are you going to be impacted by it? The monitoring part is, are we doing it on time and within budget? I also would want to do a deeper dive into the airport master plan that's been green lighted. What are we trying to accomplish at the airport? How we're going to go about doing that? What is my role in it? I believe we have an interim person that's over the airport that needs to be made permanent. And then I want to complete a review of the pandemic impacts. How has the pandemic changed this government? Do we work differently? Are there some people that went remote and said, I'm not coming back? In some cities, private sector companies are changing their office footprint as a result of the pandemic. Is that going to cause our office vacancy rate to go up? That should matter. I need to deepen my grasp of the 9%. We have only 9% remaining capacity before we're completely built out. What does that look like? How are we going about addressing it? Are there things that the city of Chandler wants to see happen within the 9%? How much of that land do we control? And then I would begin my budget notes process. These are things that need to be included in the next fiscal year. And so I do budget notes to keep track of those. I would want to do a review of the professional development program with the HR department. How are we training employees here? What skills are we trying to impart to them? What does that look like? Is there a role for the city manager to play? Every place I've worked, I've been in the classroom in the organizational development classes trying to help employees get better. And then I need to begin my whistle stops. As others have said, I cannot be trapped in the four walls of City Hall all day, 100% of the time. I've got to get out and see our remote operations. I've got to get around the city that helps with relationship building. And the light's still not red, that's good. And I got to listen. I got to continue that listening process. Within the first 180 days, I would like to facilitate some small group discussions to tackle impediments. What am I talking about? Every place I've been, there's been a handful of things that drive the employees crazy. It's a code that hasn't been updated. It's a procedure that doesn't work right. There's too much paper. There's something that makes our day-to-day work not as efficient as we'd like. If we could address some of those, it makes everyone feel better about showing up. Working with our government relations office to fashion or at least to understand what is our state, federal policy, legislative agenda. Are we trying to get policy help from the State House? Are we trying to get policy help out of DC? Are we trying to get dollars to do projects out of DC? What is our agenda so that we can all speak from the same sheet of music? I also would want to review strategic partnerships, partnerships we may have with private sector, with the nonprofit sector, regional partnerships that we may have. And I also would then want to start what I call Field of Dreams. Again, those are small group discussions to ascertain from you what are some things that you've talked about for years but have never been able to get done. Is it a vision or a concept that we can take one or two of those items and actually make them happen? That encourages innovation, it encourages creativity, and it makes people feel better about coming to work. Also, within the first 180, complete my big issues review: homelessness, affordable housing, mental health, police, community relations, equity, inclusion, and policy. These are things you can't solve in one meeting. And so I need to take some time to understand what we're trying to do and how we're trying to get there. Keep on listening. Thank you. I hope to join you soon. And the light's red. There you go.
That darn red light.
That darn
I
red
don't know
light.
how it keeps happening. All right, Sarah, I'm going to
Now I'm nervous. I wasn't
presentation.
nervous before, but I'm scared of that red light.
So Sarah, let me know when you're ready and I'll start the red light timer.
I just want to thank you so much. I guess I'm ready. You ready? For me, there's an overall approach to the plan, and two things I want to say. If you be patient with me, one is I have a lot of stuff here because I believe whatever I create here, I need to use if I am selected to be your city manager. So this wasn't an exercise in futility. This was an exercise in creating the work plan that I would actually follow. But there's three key area focuses throughout the 180 days: learning and assessment, which is really understanding the organization; strategy, which is opportunities in assessing the organization; and then what I believe to be the most important part is people and culture, the fabric of the city. So bear with me. I'm not going to touch on every one of these, but the first 30 days I am. I have to engage essential people: the mayor, council members, department heads, and key community stakeholders. I got to get to know those folks right up front. And I need to do the onboarding responsibilities, which are huge in a city of this size, and to learn about the city operations and key projects and budget updates, capital programs, current and future, how we handle our agenda process. I need to set up ongoing meetings, one-on-one meetings with the mayor and council members, and bring the assistant city manager in as well, because I believe as we work as a team to address issues and answers, and if we can do that up front, we're better off. I also believe in setting up quarterly meetings with city manager's office staff and the directors to cover projects, personnel, legal issues, city attorney or their representative was sitting on these issues, to look at metrics. And most importantly, what do the directors need most for us to help them with their work? And then for me, I need to get in touch with the community survey to find out what's going on. Strategy, I need to review the overall mission, vision, and values, and how they relate to the city. How are we connecting our work every day to those and supporting those? The long-term success, we need to identify issues that may warrant further planning or review or analysis. But I need to gain agreement with council and department heads on how and what we deliver and what are our success metrics. What does council believe are the success metrics? What makes us successful? And I believe this is most important, is meeting with the employee bargaining units to establish a relationship. If you can't do that up front, you can't work with them right up front, then you're sunk from the very beginning. How do we communicate the progress of council priorities through all that we do? Everything we do, we should talk about council priorities and how we're meeting those. And then I think you already have a Friday report, so I'm not even going to talk about that, but that's how we can communicate regularly with our council members, our staff members, but also our community. People and culture. There's 30 days. I got to get out. I got to attend public meetings. I'm going to go to board and commission meetings to get to know those individuals. They're part of our community. I want to talk about the style of my leadership, how I work, how I set expectations, which is transparency and trust, establishing regular feedback loops. I, too, am one that return my calls, even if it's 8 o'clock at night and it's a citizen that needs a call back. I'm going to do it, and quite frankly, they're shocked to hear from me. But it's important that we be able to communicate. I believe in setting up employee forums, and I'm very used to using Teams to do that. People don't want to have to drive from their office to go to a meeting at City Hall or somewhere else. So I'll do a virtual Teams meeting with all city employees that want to attend, and they can answer any question they want. We usually try to cover some issues, but I believe you have to set those up. Media outlets, I believe you have to talk to the media right up front and talk about transparency, talk about the culture, and talk about what's going on, who you are, and so that you have that open and inviting opportunity from right up front. I would start my department tours and visit and listen. And then I would sit down with the city attorney, the city magistrate, and the city clerk and start working with them on monthly meetings, maybe even more than monthly meetings, to talk about how we work together, how we can make sure that we're supporting each other and going forward. Same thing, 60 days. Learning and assessment first thing. Got to set up those early achievable priorities. I have to bring myself up to speed on your plans. You have a Parks and Recreation master plan, you have a mobility plan, a general plan, a solid waste and wastewater water plan, environment and sustainability plan. Now, I'm not a speed reader. And I can't put it under my pillow and let osmosis occur. But what I can do is get to know the people who put the plan together and who work it every day, Jeff Larson in Parks and Recreation, and learn how to better understand those plans so I can help better support you. I need to talk about the organizational structure with department heads and have an honest conversation, what I like to call courageous conversation, because I think there are some needs. Quite frankly, you're going to find out I'm not one to pull punches. I think there's some needs out there, and I want to hear from them what's working well, what needs adjustment. I want to talk about hiring practices and recruitment strategies, especially regarding a diverse workforce. I believe that's important. We must reflect the community we serve. I want to talk about retention strategies. How do we keep our people here? How do we make sure we're not spending money to hire and hire and hire? Uh-oh, you're right. You have to raise it up. I know this is a lot of words, but again, this is the plan, and I would actually use this plan. I'd look at short-term, mid-term, long-term work efforts, the first 60 days under strategy, synthesize evaluation of departments, working with the directors to identify realignment needs and efforts. I think Josh mentioned it. There are some things that may need to be realigned. To me, this is key. Review in depth and discuss with directors the strategic framework. Learn how we're tying that work to priorities, especially in organizational excellence, infill development, mobility, leveraging partnerships with the community, and working to provide a coordinated, holistic approach. I believe that we work better together unless and not separately. We have to look at how we're going to address housing affordability, right time, right location, right development. Are we focusing on sustainability? And I mean not just of the environment. Financially, do we have an eye towards equity and inclusion? And that's a part of it. I think I would work with the information technology director associated with the assistant city manager to look at our plans and goals on information technology. I think we need to set some necessary timelines and checkpoints for some improvements, including initiatives that may be stalled, and looking at possibilities of where work might be able to be outsourced and get work completed faster. The bond issuance strategy needs to be created, and a communication plan needs to be developed so that we can make sure we're communicating with the community in regards to moving forward with the hopeful bond program, as Milton mentioned, over $400 million, and develop leads from those areas so that there's a single point of contact. I think you connect with developments and neighborhoods so that we make sure that we're communicating with our folks when developments occur, which I know that Micah does. And then looking at housing options with mixed-use development. People and culture, once again, most important. Business and private, nonprofit school sectors. And the Native American tribes and nations, you need to sit down and develop open relationships and open the communication. You may not always agree, but I think it's hard to have a disagreement sometimes with people when you meet in person. It's easy through text and it's easy through a phone. I believe you have to create those community connections with residents and have the natural relationship builders who they're trusted. So you pick people from those areas and you work with them to help you create that sense of community. Define core behavioral and operational values and set the example of creating the environment that helps a healthy teamwork. One city, one voice. I already mentioned that, I think, to Matt, because I think we have to work with one city, one voice and reward those efforts. Tying all of the work we do, looking at an overall work plan and how we address that tied to the council priorities, looking at how we allocate our resources, how we create those connections, and then develop a bond strategy. I would review a current asset management effort because I think asset management is one of the most important things a city can have. What do you have? How old is it? When was it put in? When is it up for renewal? That should drive your capital program and your planning efforts. And then where are we on a safety program and training for a city? Is there a citywide risk assessment? Have we really looked at our financial risk and other things in the city? And again, where's the progress on our housing strategy? Strategy, that's environmental scanning. That's looking at the outside in the community, but I also list later on, I think in the 180-day, maybe later under people, is a environmental scan of our internal community, our internal stakeholders. I would focus on efficiency and looking at more efficient ways to do our job. I think Josh also mentioned that. Partnerships, working with others. If we're not the best people to do it, we should be looking at our partners in the community to help us. That may mean if we're looking at homelessness, we may provide support from a building part of it, but we don't run it and operate it, but we help to support our community. Looking at a strategy towards community-centric. How do we give input of frontline staff, taking that input and letting them become more fluid and frequent so that they can take that their ownership and initiative? And looking at outcomes, not outputs. I think you will be most successful if you can do outcomes and not look at all your outputs. You can do a lot of outputs, but what does that really tell you? It's what the outcome you want to achieve that really will tell you. Look at reforming and aligning management practices based on what you've heard. How do our organizational values tie to performance? How do we inspire employees, enable them to excel? And that's when I talked about the environmental scan on the diverse needs. 180 days, that's my 179 days. So 179 days is really evaluating me on have I done all of those things or have I worked with staff? Have we looked at our hiring practices related to diversity? Have we developed specific work plans? Under same thing, created a mobility action plan. Have we looked at housing options and how we tie that to the needs? Have we connected with our regional partners to review annexations and transportation grants? And that's my time. And so it goes on to say, have I achieved all those things? So the 179 days of 180 days is evaluating me on my performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So we will end with 3 minutes. And Josh, I will start with you. If you can please provide us a closing statement for your final 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. I'd just like to close by saying, anytime we go through a transition like this in an organization, it's scary. This is a time of challenge for the organization and a time of stress. Certainly coming from being internal to the organization as an assistant city manager and moving to the city manager position, I think there's always that question about what's it going to be like going forward? Is it going to be exactly what we had before? Is it going to be totally different? Where are we going as an organization? And I think what I can tell you is that although I want to keep the best things of Chandler, that secret sauce, if you will, that makes us who we are, and that Team Chandler spirit that makes this a wonderful place to work, a wonderful place to live, and keep that stability that I think we all deserve and rely upon, I will not just be a continuation of everything we've always had. And I want to make that clear. I will be my own person. Hopefully you've all seen that in the last 5 months that I've been with you. that I will not be afraid to make decisions. I will not be afraid to do the right thing. And I will listen, most importantly, and communicate effectively, openly, honestly, frequently, to make sure that this is one team moving forward together. Chandler is changing. Chandler is a big city. Chandler is, I think, the 75th or so largest city in the United States. We have an opportunity here to keep, again, what has made us so special, those community interactions that we have every day, those partnerships that you don't find in those bigger cities, keep those intact while also growing and almost optimizing into that bigger city environment. This is a critical time for our city. And I want to make sure you know that I will provide that stable leadership and that vision that will enable us to cross that boundary into that bigger city status. I will always be calm under difficult situations. And again, I will always look to do the ethical and right thing for our community. For me, on a personal basis, there is no next step. There's not, this is a stepping stone to something else. This is not, I hope to be here for a couple of years and then move on to a bigger city. That was never my goal. I truly meant what I said when I opened, that for me, Chandler was it. This was the place that I hoped to be. I was fortunate to get there at an earlier stage in my career than I thought I would. I hoped I would, if I was lucky, come to Chandler at the end of my career, because to me, it was always at a whole other level. I still think it is a city that every other city wants to be, even if they won't admit that they want to be like us, because we have so much success here that we can be proud of. And you see those successes continuing to come. Look at all we've accomplished just in the last few months with Intel and Shields and the budget and everything else that we've done. So to me, there is no greater city. This is where me and my family belong. This is where we want to be. This is where we aspire to live and also where we aspire to work. And so I hope you will give me that opportunity. And I want again to thank you for your support of me as your acting city manager over the last 5 months. It truly has been an honor to serve with all of you. And I hope we will get to continue that relationship again for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Milton, I'll move on to you. 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to compete for the right to come and join you. As I indicated before, I'm a seasoned public servant. I'm dedicated with passion for serving cities. I've held all of the top administrative or executive positions in 4 cities. I've been a director of public safety. I am a decisive decision maker. You have a difficult choice in front of you because you have 4 professionals who want to be a part of the Chandler family. I don't envy the decision that you have to make. If you choose me, I am a person that embraces service excellence. And what that means is just doing enough to get by is not how I operate. I like to push for the best. I want to do what I can to extract the best from you. I need to be a part of helping you get better so that you can fulfill the professional goals that you have. If I get chosen and the Suns win, I'll give you a week off. But since you're such true professionals, I know you won't take it. See what I did there? You've got to have fun with these jobs because they're very difficult. But in all seriousness, I would welcome the opportunity to join you. I have used my skills to help cities on their best days. And unfortunately, I've been there and been a steadying force on their worst days. As a seasoned professional, you see a lot in these jobs. I would welcome the opportunity to be a part of the Chandler community, and thank you very much for inviting me into the process.
Thank you, Milton. Sarah, 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to visit with you. This has been a real pleasure, and actually, it's been a pleasure getting to know the 3 guys here. You always make new friends when you have an opportunity to go out and do something like this, and so that's been worth its weight in gold. Over the last year, 2020, there was even more of a realization that governments are so very important in the quality of life of our communities. This whole issue related around COVID in cities and states and our federal government really brought it to life as to what does it really mean to serve. And that's what we do. And I think this city, just like others, rose to the occasion to serve their community. Service to the community, service to the staff, and certainly service to the city as a whole. But that's also who I am. It's about service. I don't think, you aren't, not everyone's cut out to work in city government, and certainly not everyone's cut out to lead a city. And this is why I want to work here. I want you to know that I'm a leader that acts with the highest integrity, but I work with people, the mayor, the council, the community, the staff. And there's already such great work here that you've already accomplished. I mean, some cities you go into and there's a lot of things that need to be corrected or changed. Yeah, there's tweaks that need to happen. And if you want to change, things do have to happen. But I do that with a focus on inclusion, which means bringing everyone together, engagement, which means actually conversing, and equity, which was looking at everybody at the table. All are welcome. I do demonstrate confidence and courage, and it takes courage to be a city manager. There's no doubt about it. But you're not going to hear anything from me that's not honest. So I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And if that's not what you want or need, I'm not your gal. I'll lead by example. I'll lead with a heart, with passion, and definitely a sense of humor. I will not give you a week off, though, if the Suns win. I can't, but I know he clarified it. But I'd sure like to. But I want to thank you again, and I've enjoyed this, and I know there's more to come. But you have four talented, I'm including myself, four talented people up here, and so you do have a tough choice. But thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to visit with you, and I look forward to meeting some of you I did not get a chance to meet earlier because they made me come up here and sit.
Thank you,
Oh yeah,
Sarah.
I got to turn the button off.
Oh, turn the button off. So many gadgets up here. All right, Tom, so you have 3 minutes. You're taking us home.
Okay. Yeah, the good news is this is the end here. You listen to me yammer for a little bit, and then you can go on with your day. I promised 2 weeks off and a spot bonus.
At a resort.
No, what I do promise you is a fresh set of eyes. I've worked an entire career to develop some of the very best eyes in local government. I've led some of the largest capital programs with nationally recognized award-winning projects. I've overseen some of the great economic and downtown development successes in our country in our time. Led and saw and successfully brought home the bacon with prestigious private reinvestment in the community, and led, developed, enhanced, effective, and efficient basic services provided by city government. Through it all, developed some of the very best customer service for every citizen in the community, where in many cases that didn't exist. I really believe that government shouldn't be focused on internal processes. Very important to get the job done, but that's not the sole focus. The sole focus is to be community facing and to focus on serving the public in the very best manner possible. And I'll leave you with one final thought, because I think I owe you a couple minutes, right? Look for experience in your next city manager. Absolutely. Look for experience in city management. Look for successes on the resume. And again, that's what I bring you. I've had great successes, great accomplishments in all of the areas that you need to continue being a great city. So I look forward to helping your mayor and council members lead this great city. Thank you. See, I did it during the green, too.
I feel like y'all might have nightmares about the red light tonight, so I apologize for that. Well, let's give our candidates a round of applause. It's not easy being up here. So let me tell you about the next steps in the process. We're going to put them through some more paces today. Today at 4:30, they will meet in the Vision Gallery with Mayor and Council to do a meet and greet. And then at 5:15, employees and citizens are invited to attend to get to meet our candidates on a more personal level from 5:15 to 6 across the street at the Vision Gallery. Again, this video will go out citywide, so if you have input, please email that to me by next Tuesday at noon. Tomorrow, our candidates will be put through rigorous interview process with 4 panels, and then City Council at the end of the night. So I'm sure they will be very tired when they leave here. But we appreciate all of you coming today and showing the interest in this very important process and position. With that, we'll end our day. Thank you.